Hi everyone. Well, another week on the course. So where are we? Because we've done some changes, haven't we? So we're term 2, obviously. We've had a look at the employment status, whether you're worker, employee, self-employed, and also in there's an activity on contracts of employment and how it's formed. We've had a look at how contracts change, and that's a little game that we played with case studies. There's also an activity there about how collective agreements can change contracts. Week 15, we looked at how contracts end, so the broadest look at termination. And then week 16, we looked at fair and unfair dismissal. We also have started to look at the end of course project. So have a look at that. And then we made the jump. So on week 20 is I got asked whether we could do what I call a special request. And for that, we have done settlement agreements. Now, what I was going to say is that this activity, along with a resource that's in there in week 20, is getting us to look at what was formerly known as compromise agreements, but are now known as settlement agreements. And it's sort of doing it in 3 steps. So ignore the bit about the questions, because that's something we did in class. But using the code of practice that's on the Moodle is, can you describe in your own words what a settlement agreement is? And in particular, what is the purpose of it? No need to explain how it's helpful or not. We're going to come back to that a bit later on. And then have a look at the procedure in terms of the steps in order to achieve a settlement agreement. Oh, there's 2 tasks 3. Don't worry, I'll make changes to that. Basically, this part is looking at one aspect of the settlement agreement, which is called without prejudice. And there's 2 parts. One is to explain what is without prejudice in the context of the settlement agreement. And, you know, how does it apply? And then is, well, what protection does it provide to someone, an employee? And that is the bit where you need to look at unambiguous impropriety. In terms of the case law, what I might suggest is, if you haven't got labour research, employment law at work, then do a Google search. And then the second part to that is called confidential basis. Now, this is the bit that the Tory government introduced in 2013, which was formerly known as a protected conversation. So this confidential basis conversation is another aspect of it. And I think it's useful if you get to describe what that is. Again, I've added some case law, and then its impact. But also then there's a kind of additional part to it, which is called improper behaviour. So I'm going to get you to explain what that means. And then as part of task 4 is, well, now that you've had a look at the core components of a settlement agreement, is it good? Is it bad? Is it helpful? Is it not helpful? Imagine someone facing sexual harassment at work. If an employer then decides to provide a settlement agreement, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? So some of those thoughts, I think, would be useful for you to be able to write down on here. And that's about it for this week. Have a good week, and hopefully I get to see you next week. If not, email me, keep in touch, upload some of that good work that you're doing. Brilliant. Have a good weekend. See you. Bye.